My husband threw me out because of his son's lie. He never asked me for the truth. That night destroyed my marriage, but it ended up changing my life forever. He swore he was telling the truth, and the worst part was how calm he looked while saying it. My husband stood in our living room, with his arms crossed, while his son leaned against the wall, behind him wearing that familiar wounded expression, the one he always used when he wanted sympathy. She hates me, Dad. She always has his voice cracked perfectly. Not too much, just enough. And my husband believed him without hesitation. I remember the way the room felt, suddenly smaller, like the walls had decided to listen too. My name is Eliza, and I learned that betrayal does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers through the mouth of a child and is signed by the man you married. We had been together for 8 years, built routines, shared finances, planned futures that depended on trust. And one night, all of it cracked, because a 19-year-old boy decided I was in his way. It started with small things, missing money from the kitchen drawer. My earrings moved from their box conversations, stopping when I entered the room. Every time I asked questions, my husband brushed it off, saying I was overthinking, saying his son was sensitive, saying I needed to be more patient. Then came the accusation, Dad, she tried to throw me out. She told me I was useless. She wants you all to herself. The words landed like poison. My husband did not ask, when did this happen, or why would she do that? He just turned to me with disappointment, already formed in his eyes. Is this true, Eliza? I laughed at first because it sounded absurd, because I had spent years trying to bond with a boy who hated me from the moment I married his father, but laughter made it worse. So, you are mocking him now? That was the moment I knew I was alone. That night, he told me to pack a bag, said we needed space, said his son felt unsafe. Unsafe. The word echoed while I folded my clothes with shaking hands. He watched me like a stranger, while his son stood in the hallway, pretending not to smile. When the door closed behind me, I realized no one had defended me. Not once I slept on my sister's couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, trying to find the moment where I lost my marriage. Days passed without a message. Instead, I saw his son posting vague quotes about toxic women and fake mothers. People commented hearts and support. My husband liked every post. That was week 1, week 2. Something inside me hardened. I stopped crying. I stopped hoping. I started remembering. The house was partly mine. The savings account was mostly mine. The business he ran quietly in. His name was funded by my inheritance. He had forgotten that I opened files, gathered documents, receipts, transfers, messages, agreements. He once asked me to sign because it was easier that way. By week 3, I was calm, terrifyingly calm. When he finally called, he sounded tired, not apologetic. Have you thought about your behavior? Behavior? I asked if he had asked his son for proof. He paused, then said, I trust my child. I said, then you never trusted me. Silence. 2 days later, he came to my sister's place alone, without his son, without anger, without certainty. He said, maybe we should reset. Maybe I could apologize and come back. I handed him an envelope. He opened it slowly. Divorce, filing financial claims, asset review. His face changed, like the floor had moved. You are overreacting. I smiled because I was done reacting. I told him I had already spoken to a lawyer. I told him I wanted my share and what was mine. He asked, what about my son? I said he already won, didn't he? That was when his son appeared behind him, in the doorway, eyes sharp, voice raised. Good, she is finally gone. She never belonged here. For the first time, my husband did not agree immediately. The doubt was small, but it existed enough. I closed the door. From that moment, everything shifted. Accounts were frozen. The business was reviewed. My name was everywhere he thought it wasn't. Court dates arrived like storms. In the courtroom, my husband looked smaller, his confidence leaking with every document presented. His son sat behind him, arms folded, glaring at me like I had stolen something. When the judge asked why I was removed from the marital home without discussion, my husband looked at his son before answering. The hesitation said everything. After the hearing, his son followed me outside, calling me greedy, saying, I never loved his father. I told him calmly, love does not erase lies. His face faltered just for a second. Over weeks, the pressure cracked their alliance. Friends told me my husband started questioning his son, asking for details. Timelines proof. The stories changed. The anger grew. Their home became loud. At the final hearing, the ruling was clear. Assets divided, my contribution recognised, the business partially transferred to me. My husband looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Afterward, he messaged me late at night saying he should have listened, saying he was confused, saying we could still talk. I did not reply. Instead, I redirected my share of the business into something he could never control again, a foundation for women displaced by family betrayal. When his son found out, he exploded, blaming his father, blaming me, blaming everyone. My husband blamed his son. They moved apart. The house was sold. I moved into a quiet apartment, filled with light and silence. One morning, an email arrived from a woman helped by the foundation saying she finally felt safe. I closed my laptop and smiled, because the truth is, I was never thrown out because of a lie. I was removed because it was easier than choosing me. And the real ending was not the courtroom or the money or the revenge. It was the moment I stopped waiting to be believed and started living as someone who no longer needed permission to exist.